What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for July 22nd, 2022. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. It's certainly been an eventful one. I mean, between Friday and Saturday, it's been quite crazy for me personally, just overall in the world of wrestling, specifically with Vince retiring from WWE on Friday, which I will touch upon in a moment. I'll go into way more depth about it on likely hashtag next Wednesday and more likely Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursday, which we're going to have to wait a couple days to get to that, but don't want to get too much into it here. This review is all about SmackDown. But yeah, we had SmackDown Friday, the Vince News Friday, Triple H being appointed back to the role of head of talent relations in WWE earlier that day. Yesterday, we had Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor. It was an extremely busy day for me personally. I was busy earlier in the day, and then I drove up to Lowell from Connecticut for the show. Was there for the show, had a great time. There for the post-show media scrum, which we were there until fucking 1:30 for. It was crazy. And then had a long drive home. I was legitimately up, and I tweeted this earlier today. I was legitimately up for 23 hours straight, which might sound like nothing, like, oh, you know, I do that all the time, you're probably thinking, or you guys probably do that all the time, or if you've done that before. I've never pulled an all-nighter before. I've never stayed up for 24 hours consecutively. I almost did. I came home, I can't even say late last night. It was really earlier this morning, like not even early in the morning, but like later in the morning, not like 10, but I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that, and then stayed up to work on an article, so I was up extremely late, extremely tired, but I'm here now reviewing this review for SmackDown and doing among other things that we got going on today. But I did want to come on here today to talk about SmackDown. I don't usually do the SmackDown audio reviews on Sundays. They're normally reserved for Saturdays, but like I said, the last couple of weeks have been crazy, specifically this weekend. I doubt I'll even do a SmackDown review next week. Next week is SummerSlam weekend. The pay-per-view's on Saturday. I will be in Nashville for the pay-per-view, so just keep an eye out. Keep it in mind, and no SmackDown audio review either next Saturday or Sunday. Likely a SmackDown lowdown review, because I always do those regardless, but an actual SmackDown review, more than likely not here on the channel. But we are talking about it here today for July 22nd, 2022. So we started the show, and I was off Twitter aside from that 1 hour on Friday when shit just hit the fan with the whole Vince news and whatever. I did not see that they announced ahead of time that Stephanie McMahon would be opening the show. Because when Vince retired, that news broke, and it was then reported soon after that Brock, who was advertised to appear in Boston on that show on Friday, walked out. He said, if Vince is gone, then I'm gone with him. And then he walked out. Obviously, he reappeared by the end of the show. I believe the quote-unquote dirt sheet stuff. Listen, I don't really put much stock into it normally, but when it comes from the right sources, specifically people like Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp, say what you will about these people, but more often than not with that website specifically, they're pretty spot on with their stories. I don't think this was one giant fucking work. I don't think the fans really stand to benefit from that at all. Oh, to make it more shocking that he showed up on a random fucking SmackDown. Like, I don't think that was the case at all. They literally advertised him up until an hour or two before the show. Reportedly, he was supposed to be in the opening segment, which makes a lot of sense. Whenever Brock's on SmackDown, he's almost always in the opening segment. He was in the opening segment on Raw a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago. So that doesn't sound overly illogical at all. So he very likely would have been in the opening segment, doing what he did anyway, laying out Austin Theory or whatever, talking about Roman Reigns. So he walked out. I would assume he came back. I mean, it was said to be earlier in the show, not 5 minutes before he was supposed to come on. But I think Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, another really good source, he had said that I think he had come back around 8:30 local time, maybe 9 halfway through the show. But anyway, he was back in time for that closing segment. And thankfully it didn't get out because it actually made that moment more surprising and more that much cooler. And that was probably the best part of the entire show from Friday. Not a bad show, but if you went into the show expecting any sort of change, coming off the announcement that Vince is done with WWE and being the head of creative, people thinking, oh, we're in for an all-new show tonight. It was the same shit as usual. And I expected nothing different, at least for this week. I'm not saying that we're not going to get change. I have to reiterate this to the people. I'm not saying that it's not going to change, but it's going to be long-term. We will not see, I don't think, and I would love it if we did, I don't think we're going to see any drastic difference on the creative end of things on SmackDown, Raw this coming week, or even SummerSlam. In the report that I had read earlier today about, I don't know if it was from Fightful or Meltzer or PW Insider or whatever, very likely creatively, things are going to stay the same for a while. because out of respect for Vince, they want to kind of honor his vision for where certain things were going. Bruce Pritchard, for all intents and purposes, is the new head of creative for now. Will he be long-term? I don't think so. They'll either incorporate someone new into that position alongside Bruce or just get rid of Bruce entirely. I don't think they will. It's either going to be Bruce and someone else or just Bruce for right now. Either way, it's going to be Bruce Pritchard's vision for what WWE is going to be looking like for the foreseeable future. If you know anything about Bruce Pritchard, and he's not all, terrible. It's not completely terrible. And the same thing can be said with Vince. I mean, with Vince, a lot of the creative decisions and things being made, those decisions being made and things being done, were not all awful. A majority of it was, and very questionable, but it wasn't all terrible. That being said, Bruce Pritchard follows the mindset of Vince McMahon. I know someone had said to me the other day, Bruce is kind of a people pleaser. He'll go with whoever his new boss is and kind of try to please that person. I mean, maybe that was the case in TNA. I've always I always thought Vince wanted Bruce around because Bruce was kind of the same mindset as far as what he wanted and making decisions that were a lot like Vince's. They kind of share the same brain in that regard. And that can be good sometimes when the creative vision is good. But it's not when the creative vision is bad. And that's what it's been like for quite a long time now in WWE, for as long as Pritchard's been back in the company since 2019. So I don't really take that as a positive that Pritchard's going to be heading creative for the foreseeable future. It can't honestly get any worse with Vince gone, I don't think. Maybe it will, I don't think so. But with just Bruce and no Vince, I don't think it gets worse, but it certainly will not get any better, I don't think. That much better in the foreseeable future. You have to remember that while watching a show like this SmackDown or this coming Monday's Raw or SummerSlam next weekend. Absolutely do not expect, my phone just went off, I apologize, but absolutely do not expect any immediate change from this company at any point in the near future. And if I was WWE and I wrote about this morning for Bleacher Report, it would be great if they utilized this opportunity and capitalized on this opportunity to actually incorporate change into the product. Because they know people are talking, they know people are going to feel like WWE's must-see, Vince is gone, at least among the hardcore fans thinking, Vince is gone, let's celebrate, what a glorious day or whatever. I mean, they probably don't give a fuck about us. They kind of care about the overall product and the audience. I don't think a majority of the audience is happy that Vince is gone. I think most people are thinking if you watch the product casually, either it doesn't make much of a fucking difference or, it stinks that he's gone. They're probably not thinking, the creative's going to be that much better or worse. They just watch it for what it is. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and there is a vast majority of fans. There's a lot of fans that are happy Vince is gone. I'm not sure if it's the majority, though. I don't think they give a shit about trying to please us and thinking, we'll give you that great product you've always been asking for. We are the most vocal because we're on social media. Everyone's on social media, but we're the ones that are most complaining about the show and me doing my show and people having bigger platforms than mine and stuff like that. Talking about this shit, sure, you want to try to appease them to a certain point, appease to those sort of people and appeal to them and stuff like that. But overall, they don't give a fuck, specifically WWE. They just don't care. So in an ideal world, they would use this as an opportunity to really bring change to the shows in the near future. I just don't see that happening. So on that note, we had Stephanie starting the show, as I mentioned. She was out there breaking the news that Vince has indeed retired from WWE. And she wasn't painting it as a positive. She was more, not even really like a negative, but kind of thanking him for all of his years of service. I mean, he is her father after all. She seemed like she was a little emotional. And listen, it's her dad. They're not going to bring up anything that kind of came to light about him in recent months and weeks and whatever. They're not going to. I wouldn't expect them to. Why would they anyway? It's not real. It is important information as to why he's stepping down, obviously. But they're not going to say that on the show. I mean, this is his company. So she paid respect to her father and then led the crowd in a chant of, "Thank you, Vince." And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it for all the years of contributions he's made to wrestling and essentially being pro wrestling for so many decades now. Vince was not the worst thing to happen to wrestling. I mean, maybe other people would disagree to that. If anything, he really saved wrestling in a lot of ways and made wrestling more prosperous than it has been ever. And I know he brought up all the territories and stuff like that. And we could talk about that all day long. But I do think Vince's impact on the business is such that his contributions cannot be denied. That being said, you can't ignore his overall legacy when it comes to the stuff that's come out about him in the last month. All the allegations and the settlements, the hush money payments, stuff like that. I mean, that's not good stuff. Him cheating on his wife or whatever, committing adultery or whatever it would be called, whatever. That's not really the biggest deal. It's more so the fact that the stories that have come out about how he treats certain employees, and this goes back decades. We can go into the nitty gritty of this, but is it full on rape or anything like that? I mean, I guess from the definition of the word, it might be. I can't exactly say. I don't want to accuse him of anything that it's not true, but sexual harassment, sexual assault. There's a lot of very specific definitions to those words that I can't really get into here. But it is one of those things where it's not good. The stuff that's come out about him does not very much paint him in a positive light. So for that reason alone, he had to step down. It's sad that it had to come under these circumstances. In a perfect world, he would have stepped down years ago from a creative, knowing that he wasn't the best thing for the product and he was out of touch and whatever. He would never admit that. He said to Pat McAfee earlier this year on Pat's show that he would never retire. He has no plans to retire. He would die in that chair in Gorilla. I don't know if he said that specifically, but the other stuff he did. And then little do you know, mere months later, he's gone from the company. And I don't really think, maybe it was his own decision, or he woke up this morning thinking, you know what, after all, I do want to hang out, enjoy my day. I would love to know what Vince is doing right now as a retired man. Is he thinking about wrestling? Is he booking the shows on his napkin at home, on a whiteboard or whatever, in the notes app on his phone? Is he texting someone? What is he doing? It sounds like he and Linda, although technically still married, don't have a great relationship. They don't even live together, apparently, reportedly. So what the hell is he even doing? It seems that he has a strained relationship with his son. His daughter is the new co-president of the company. Triple H, I'm not sure if they were ever on great terms, at least recently anyway, where they're hanging out at each other's houses, drinking beer and whatever. Vince, I'm sure he drinks, but he goes to the gym a lot. Is he spending more time at the gym? I am fascinated to know what exactly Vince is doing at this exact moment and what he will be doing moving forward. I can't see Vince in a home. Vince would never go to a home ever, even if it meant saving his life. And by that, I mean a retirement home. That really is what intrigues me more than anything. But in all seriousness, though, I don't even really know what I was getting at. But the stuff that is a part of his legacy now is why he had to step down. Regardless of whether it was his decision, he was forced out, he was pressured to, by whom I don't know. But regardless of the reason, he's gone now. And the whole thank you, Vince, listen, I get it, it's her father. It's not even not deserved, but the timing is just not good. I think there's a time and a place for something like that. And in light of everything that's come out about him lately, now is not that time. It just makes the company look cringy. And that's my own opinion. If you liked it or you were chanting along, whatever. But I just watched that thinking, all right, let's try not to make Vince out to look like a hero right now. Wrestling is great and all, but what you do to other actual people, living human beings, is more important than anything you've ever done for a business that isn't a human in and of itself, if that makes sense. So the stuff that he's done, not lately, but that's come out about him, is far more important and life impacting than anything else he's done with WWE. That's just a fact. So that's why I don't really feel comfortable watching a segment like this and hearing Stephanie say, oh, thank you, Vince. Thank you, Vince. Again, she's not wrong because he did do a lot of great stuff. And I don't even want to compare it to Benoit because what Benoit did was, infinitely worse with the murder of him, of his wife and kid and suicide, whatever, the double murder-suicide stuff. I don't even want to compare it to that. I was going to say, that's like them announcing what happened to Benoit and then saying, but he was a great wrestler. Thank you, Benoit. It's not even the same thing, so I can't even say that. But I would still hold off on the whole, the flowers for Vince sort of thing. We can talk about his legacy. I don't think that should be, understated or overstated or whatever by any means. We could talk about it all day long, but you can't talk about what he's done to wrestling without mentioning the other stuff that's come to light lately, because that's pretty serious allegations and some pretty serious shit. So, anyway, that was the opening segment. From there, Madcap Moss saved the Street Profits from Theory and the Usos. That kind of felt like a makeshift segment to set up the six-man tag team main event with Brock being gone until the end of the episode anyway. That segment was fine. The first match on the show saw Shinsuke Nakamura take on Ludwig Kaiser in a rematch from 2 weeks ago. Nakamura won that match, and I think Gunther said at the time, if you can beat Kaiser, if you can beat Kaiser, I may consider giving you an Intercontinental Championship opportunity. So far, he hasn't, and then Nakamura lost here, albeit with some help from Gunther. Maybe they'll set up Nakamura and Gunther for SummerSlam, I don't know. Kaiser winning didn't, I thought it was weird, because I'm thinking, okay, if they're building up Nakamura to contend for the championship, why would they have Kaiser win? But you know what? If you want to lend Kaiser a little credibility, that's great too. I have no issue with that. What they're doing with him and Gunther, I don't hate it, but I wouldn't split them up anytime soon. If they turn Kaiser babyface, that would be incredibly dumb. I just don't really see that working out long term. I hope that's one of those Vince ideas that fucking dies in a fire, because I think that would be stupid to do that anytime soon. Although people are certainly feeling sympathy for him from taking the chops from Gunther every single fucking week. But this was fine. I don't know if, like I said, I think I said this before, but I don't know if they do Nakamura and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. I mean, it would be a little silly if they did it next week at this point, considering, Nakamura just lost on this show. But you could do it next week, 2 weeks. I guess they could add it to SummerSlam. I don't want SummerSlam having a million matches, but it seems like it won't. I mean, they're doing Lacey Evans and Aliyah on SmackDown next week, and McIntyre and Sheamus, which is a pretty big match in that Donnybrook match or whatever they're calling it, which I'll get to momentarily. That's happening on SmackDown and not the pay-per-view, which is interesting. So I don't know if SummerSlam needs Gunther and Nakamura, but I wouldn't complain if they went in there and had a great match. Pat McAfee at ringside, just being Pat McAfee on commentary when he was attacked by Happy Corbin. This was basically a repeat of the angle they did from Money in the Bank after the show went off the air, where Corbin just viciously attacked McAfee. But he didn't hit him with the end of days on the ground or whatever. McAfee just got up from the beating after Corbin walked away, and he went right after Corbin. And there wasn't this imaginary wall where Corbin runs backstage and McAfee's just standing at ringside like an idiot, like, oh yeah, you better run. No, he fucking went after them. They brawled in the back by Gorilla, had to be broken up. McAfee goes back out to the ring, cuts a great babyface promo with the entire crowd rallying behind him. And I thought it was great. Honestly, I'm looking forward more to this match than maybe most matches at SummerSlam. It's fresh. McAfee's great. I think Corbin is great in this role. He's a fine foil for McAfee. I like this a lot. And then the build has also been very enjoyable too. The new vicious Viking Raiders, as they're calling them, which Vince is gone, but the nicknames are not for now. They beat Jinder Mahal and Shanky. This was a glorified squash. That's all this was. There really wasn't anything worth noting about this. We are building to New Day and Viking Raiders next week on SmackDown. Again, another SummerSlam match that I thought might be the pay-per-view, but they're doing it next week instead. And that's fine. That kind of feels more like a SmackDown match anyway. But I am looking forward to it if it's an actual match this time. The only thing worth noting about this was that Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston were on commentary for this match. And Woods mentioned that the Viking Raiders, formerly known as War Machine and the War Raiders, whatever, were former NXT Tag Team Champions, but also IWGP Tag Team Champions and Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, which is true. They are former New Japan and Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Viking Raiders are one of the only teams to have held gold in New Japan, Ring of Honor, NXT, and Raw. Never the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The only other team that can claim that, I think, might be Red Dragon. They were never the Raw Tag Team Champions, obviously. They never even made it to the main roster full-time. But I think Red Dragon are former IWGP Tag Team Champions. I'm not sure. They are certainly former Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions and NXT Tag Team Champions. Can't think of many other teams that have done what the Raiders have done, though. So that was fine. I mentioned the Sheamus McIntyre segment. No false advertising this week. We didn't get the match, but they did set it up for next week, which I'm not really sure is what's stopping them from doing it, unless one of them gets suspended or fined if they don't go through with it. But next week it will be McIntyre and Sheamus, one-on-one finally, again, in a rematch from, I think, last month when they battled for the spot in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. But this time it's a Donnybrook match. And Sheamus revealed here that he had a lot of shillelaghs, and I assume you can hit each other with shillelaghs. It's basically like an Irish street fight. It sounds like a European street fight, which honestly sounds pretty cool, considering these two always work well together as partners, opponents, whatever. I'm looking forward to this. McIntyre can't bring a sword, and why would he? I mean, he looks like a fucking asshole out there. I love McIntyre, but like he's swinging a sword around to get your mind out of the gutter, threatening to kill Sheamus and whatever. I'm like, yo, dude, like, calm the fuck down. But we're getting it next week, and as the other two matches had the same stipulation as well before it didn't happen, the winner of that match next Friday goes on to face the undisputed WWE Universal Champion at Clash at the Castle. So I assume McIntyre wins, and I look forward to that match next week. Raquel Rodriguez quickly squashing Sonya Deville. Not really much to this at all. Sonya's kind of been the glorified enhancement talent on Raw and on SmackDown since getting back in the ring. I'm glad she's back in the ring full time. The authority figure stuff ran its course a long time ago. But I would like to see more done with her at some point. Lacey Evans and Aliyah, once again for the third consecutive week, did not happen. Evans talked more shit about the audience, laid out Aliyah, and that was it. Evans' mic work is winning me over with this character. I'm still not in full-blown support of the character. I still think it was too soon to turn her heel, but whatever. Taking one reaction from Money in the Bank, and, oh, she was booed, let's turn her heel. I mean, if it was that fucking easy, they should have turned Roman Reigns heel 10 years ago, but, 8 years ago, whatever. But the thing is, though, the plan with Lacey was always to turn her heel. It wasn't like they booed her once and they were like, yeah, we should probably turn her heel. No, they were going to turn her heel months ago. That was always the long-term plan. Do not be fooled into thinking the fans turned her heel. It was always the company's plan. They were just waiting for the right time to do it when she was booed, and it was that Money in the Bank, and there you go. So the match once again did not happen. Aliyah looked like a complete fucking idiot for, again, just standing there and letting Lacey Evans just lay her out. Again. Like, what a moron. Lacey Evans honestly comes across like the babyface in this feud, but that sets up their match for next week. And again, what is stopping Lacey from not wrestling next week? They advertised the match for next week. Okay, cool. What's stopping her from going in there and saying, you know what, not this week? Why can't they just say, if Adam Pearce made the stipulation, if Lacey Evans backs out of this match, she's suspended or she's fired or she has this fine to pay. Like, we really care about the fines or whatever, but it's at least something to ensure that she competes. We get to the main event, Madcap Moss and the Street Profits battling the trio of Theory and the Usos. Quality match here. Hated the lame DQ finish. Theory, cannot buy a fucking win, man. He became Mr. Money in the Bank, almost 3 weeks ago now. It was on July 2nd, so it was 3 weeks ago from this past weekend. He lost on Raw 8 days. He lost on Raw that Monday. It was him and the Usos or Alpha Academy against Lashley and the Profits. He lost that week. I don't think he wrestled that Friday. I think he just teased cashing in on Roman. He might have wrestled. I don't remember, but he was on that show. The following Raw, he loses a tag team match to Bobby Lashley and Riddle, losing or teaming with Seth Rollins. I remember he lost. It might have been by DQ, but I'm pretty sure he lost by pinfall. On SmackDown last week, he lost to Madcap Moss by DQ. On Raw this week, he lost to AJ Styles by countout. And on this show, he lost the tag team main event by DQ by using his briefcase. The fucking briefcase causes you to lose. This has been the case for years. Well over a decade now, where if you win the briefcase, it's more of a hindrance to your push than it is a help, it seems like. And I'm sure they're high on Theory, but they can't continue to have him lose. And I guess it's better than having him be pinned, but either don't put him in that position or actually have him win once in a while. The lame non-finishes are just so fucking lame. They're just that. They're lame. So that was the show. Aside from the fact that Brock closed the show, big pop for Brock in Boston. I will admit that was cool. Brock walking out because Vince isn't there anymore. Read the fucking room, buddy. If that's how it is, then don't even bother bringing him in. I don't know if he's working SummerSlam. I assume he is. I know there was that report, they might be calling up Goldberg. Honestly, I don't even know how much worse that would be than the Brock match. We've seen Brock and Roman a million times. Would Roman and Goldberg really be that much worse? It probably would be worse from an in-ring standpoint, but, they had like a 5-minute match at Chamber. Can we get a longer match from those two, or is it just not possible at this point with Goldberg being 55, 56? But anyway, if Brock's mentality is, Vince isn't here, I'm not going to be here either. Okay, then good. Like, they didn't just get rid of Vince just because they felt like it, or Vince retired on his own. No, it was because the guy's a fucking sex pest. He's a weirdo. And you can't justify keeping a guy like that in a position of power. If Brock can't see that, then honestly, just, cut your losses and not even let him go. Just, don't even worry about it. You don't have to constantly chase the people that aren't really going to make much of a difference in the long term. Brock is a notable name. He's a big, big star. But if that's his attitude, fuck him. Just don't even bother appeasing to him and offering him more money or whatever. Maybe that's exactly what happened. Who knows? But that's just stupid. So anyway, that was SmackDown for this week. Again, like I said earlier, if you were hoping for this new, exciting, brand new blue brain coming off the Vince news, that's not what this show was. It was fine, and it was made newsworthy by Brock showing up despite saying that he wouldn't be there, basically, and walking out per the dirt sheets, and then coming back a story I 100% believe, by the way. Between that and the Stephanie stuff, that was the real highlights of the show. They bookended the show. The rest of the stuff on this episode, kind of basic. They set up several matches for next week, which I'm looking forward to. We'll see if they stick to them, because a lot of these matches, they usually advertise them and they either don't happen or they change them or whatever. So we'll see if they actually stick to it next Friday. But thank you guys for checking out my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for July 22nd, 2022. I appreciate it. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Now, listen to this. I took a lot of video at the Ring of Honor show last night. It's going to be a while, I think, but I have to upload the Death Before Dishonor post-show media scrum. AEW already did it on their own end, on their channel. The video is much better than the one that Alexis and I took at the Scrum, sitting front row. But you can actually see me and hear my questions on the post-show media Scrum from last night. It's on the AEW YouTube channel, so that was a cool experience. That was my first time doing that for AEW, so that was cool. Check that out when you can. That video will be up soon. And the other videos I took at that event, my Talking SmackDown Lowdown review will also be up at some point. And like I said earlier, I will be in Nashville for SummerSlam starting Thursday through Sunday. And looking forward to getting a lot of great content there, seeing shows, seeing people, stuff like that. And that's really about it. And the other thing I was going to mention, as I mentioned earlier, very likely no SmackDown audio review next week. I will be in Nashville. The pay-per-view is less than 24 hours after SmackDown ends. And it probably won't be a very eventful show anyway, and I'm bound to be busy. So very likely, I will say it right now, no SmackDown audio review next week. I'll likely put up a review of Talking Smack/SmackDown Lowdown at some point. Beyond that, though, keep an eye out for all the other content I put up or attempt to put up in time over SummerSlam weekend, because it will be a very hectic, busy days, as it always is, but it's always very rewarding and a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that stuff. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.